I'm Ken Zelin with McIntosh. Together, let's unbox and set up an MT10 turntable so it's ready for operation. We'll start by opening up the outer box. We're going to open up the top box. We're going to leave the bottom box in the shipping carton for right now. And here's our turntable. We'll remove the top pad and we can lift the turntable out. I'll remove the cover. We'll remove the warning notice, the protector from the bearing, and this plastic shield over the speed sensor. The plastic bag comes off the tone arm, the rubber band comes off the tone arm, and the blue plastic ring comes off to release the arm. Now we're ready to open box number 2. Now let's open up the second carton. We have a top pad, a felt record mat, the platter, it's quite heavy, and an accessory box. Okay, in the accessory box, we have an overhang gauge. This is used for adjusting the phono cartridge on the tone arm. We'll get to that shortly. An owner's manual, a grounding lead, a bubble level for leveling out the turntable, the tone arm counterweight, little McIntosh stylus force gauge, a set of Allen wrenches for making adjustments, a small screwdriver for other adjustments, lubricating oil, gloves. Underneath, we have a power supply, a variety of adapter plugs. The power supply can be used almost anywhere in the world. You just put on the proper adapter plug for the type of power you have. The low output moving coil phono cartridge. The MT10 requires a moving coil or MC phono input. If you don't have an MC phono input and yours is simply marked phono and the specifications in your owner's manual don't mention a moving coil cartridge, you'll need a separate moving coil preamp available from your dealer. We have the record clamp and a long-term storage fabric dust cover. Before we install the platter on the turntable, we have to oil the bearing. So we'll open up the oil, and you're going to take a scissors or diagonal cutters and cut just a little piece of the tip of this off. That'll let the oil come out, and you're going to want to put 2 drops at the top of the bearing. Let those drops float down. It's best to avoid getting finger oil on the belt and the chassis. Now we're ready to install the platter. You'll unwrap the platter, and then underneath there's a plastic cover sheet that pulls right off, and you want to lower this down. It's very important to lower this straight down, not at an angle. I like to hold it above and sight the bearing right to the center of the platter, lower it down, give it a little spin, and we can install the belt. That goes around the platter and around the motor pulley. A couple of spins and the belt is going to fall right into the groove, which it did. Mat goes on, and you can remove the record clamp from its packaging, and that will sit right on top. And now we're ready to install the phono cartridge. So we're going to unpack the McIntosh phono cartridge. We have to unseal the box, open it up, pull the cartridge out. We have mounting screws and an Allen wrench to mount the phono cartridge. Now, how do we get this off the cardboard? The trick is to open up these two wings so the entire piece of cardboard is flat. And now you can reach in and slide the phono cartridge out. Okay, let's mount the phono cartridge. I'm going to keep the stylus guard on the cartridge for right now. There are 4 pins on the back of the phono cartridge: white, blue, red, and green. And those are going to line up with the 4 colors of the leads. I'm going to use fine nose pliers, being careful not to tug hard on the wire. The white pin is on. The blue. The red. And the green. Now it's okay to let the cartridge hang for a moment. We'll put the 2 Allen screws through, hold the phono cartridge up with the leads toward the back, and use the Allen wrench to start attaching the cartridge. And we don't want to tighten these up yet, but we want to screw them most of the way in. So we're at the position now where the cartridge can slide forward and back. Well, if we now remove the stylus guard, which slides right off toward the front, be very, very careful. Hold the cartridge with 2 fingers, and if we keep the sides of the cartridge parallel to the sides of the tone arm, and we start sliding it back, you'll notice it hits a stop. That stop is where the cartridge should be. We tighten the screws down. Now we hold the front of the tone arm, put the counterweight on, maybe halfway up the arm tube, tighten the thumb wheel for a moment, and we're ready to set the stylus force. Before we do that, I do like to tuck the tone arm wires up toward the arm tube to make sure they're not hanging down. Now I'm going to get out our stylus force gauge. To set the force, I like to set the gauge directly on the platter. The force gauge tilts back and forth. If it tilts down fully this way, the force is too heavy. If it's tilted this way and this side is up, the force is too light. And when everything is just right, this will be right in the middle and floating on air. And we'll see there are numbers on this, and we want the force to be 2.2 grams. So just about at the 2 point. There's lines that say 2 and 2.5, right in between there. So we set the stylus between the line that says 2 and the line that says 2.5. This should float. It probably won't at the beginning. Then we're going to readjust the counterweight. So let's do this together. So we're going to very carefully now set the stylus down, and you can see the force gauge is going completely down, so we have too much weight. We need to decrease it. So I'm going to use the cueing lever to raise the arm up. I'm going to loosen the nut, slide the counterweight out the tiniest amount. Tighten up the nut again. This may take you a few minutes. You have to be a little patient. Oh, well, this was easy this time. It's floating right now. It's not going to either extreme. We've achieved 2.2 grams of tracking weight. The arm can go back in its stand. Now, I strongly recommend you consider purchasing one of these. This is an electronic stylus force gauge. Your dealer probably has this in stock. If not, it's available from many mail order places. You turn it on, you set it down, you put the stylus over the black dot, and it'll read out the force very precisely, very easily. This is great to check your stylus force once every 6 months to a year to make sure it's right, and you can see that makes the job much easier. A highly recommended accessory. Now we have to activate the anti-skating, and that's done with this little string, this black string. Make sure there's no kinks in it. Has to go around this pulley. So we're going to lift up the pulley mechanism and set the string in the groove of the pulley. There we go. That's how it should look. The string is centered in the pulley, and when we lift the arm up, be very careful of the stylus, and move the arm back and forth, this weight mechanism is moving along with it. So we've done our job correctly. Here's our power supply. It comes with several different plugs to use it in different countries. Here's the one for the US with the 2 flat pins. And we just slide this in from the end, and when it clicks, it's firmly in. Have the audio cable, which you want to get from your dealer. An audio cable does not come with the MT10 turntable. A data cable. This will enable the platter of the turntable to light up green even when the motor isn't running, maybe when you're listening to other sources. If that's the case, you want to connect from the power control output of your McIntosh system to the power control input of the MT10. That will make the platter light up while the turntable's in standby without the motor having to run all the time. That's pretty important. Lastly, we have the ground connection, and this is going to connect between the turntable and the ground input on your system and prevent hum. Let's spin the turntable around. Let's connect these all up. So we'll make the connection. So the power supply cable plugs in. We have the ground wire. I'll connect that next. Just loosen this post. There's a hole. In this case, it's a vertical hole in the post. The wire goes in. Tighten it up. We have 2 plugs, red and white, or sometimes they'll be red and black. Red is the right channel, goes into the red jack. White is the left channel. It's going into, in this case, it's a black jack. And then we have our power control, so the platter will light up without having to have the motor running. And that connects from the power control output on your McIntosh system to the power control input jack on the turntable. Now we're going to level the turntable. The bubble level gets set on the platter, and we want to see if the bubble is in the middle. It's not quite. So the feet on the turntable, if you lift it up, can rotate and adjust the leveling of the turntable. We have to do this side a little bit. There we go. The bubble is now right in the middle. We still have to check for rocking. So I'm just going to jiggle this corner. No rocking. Jiggle this corner. There's a little bit of rocking. So we need to turn this foot another quarter turn. Good, good. Double check. Bubble is in the middle. Okay, we're almost ready for music. You might have noticed I didn't talk about this. This is an overhang gauge to adjust the front to back positioning of the phono cartridge. And this is if you ever change out the phono cartridge. If you're using the cartridge that came with the MT10, remember we had slid the cartridge to the back until it hit stops. Overhang is all set, so we didn't need to use this. The MT10 also comes with this fabric cover, and this is great for long-term storage. So let's say you're going away for the winter and you don't want dust to get on the turntable. This is perfect for that. Do be sure to reinstall the stylus guard on the front of the cartridge and use a wire tie to secure the tone arm to the tone arm stand. And I say that because when you lift this off, you don't want it to hit the back of the tone arm, which might send the front of the arm into the platter and hurt the stylus. So this is for long-term storage only when the stylus guard is on and you've secured the tone arm. Now, if you want a hard plastic cover, they're available from online retailers. Let's play a record album. We'll remove it from its sleeve. Set it on the platter. Clamp goes on top. Make sure the cueing lever's in the full up position. Turn the turntable on. Make sure the speed is set correctly. We have 3 speeds available. Set the stylus over the record, and we lower it using the cueing lever. You don't want to lower the lever. You don't want to force it all the way down. You want to move it about 3/4 of the way down, and the arm will descend onto the record. When it's finished playing, this will cue the arm up. Now it's safe to move it back into its stand. I like to always leave the cueing lever in the up position when I'm not using the turntable so the stylus is protected. It's possible that at some point in the future, you might change the phono cartridge in the McIntosh turntable, and a different cartridge might have a different height to it. Or you might change the mat to a different mat, which has a little greater or lesser thickness. In either case, you might have to adjust the height of the tone arm, because when the arm is on a record, the arm tube should be parallel to the record. One easy way to tell if it is to look from the side. I hold up a piece of graph paper, makes it very easy to see if the arm is parallel to the lines on the paper, and do that while the stylus is on a record. The turntable comes with 3 Allen wrenches, and it goes right in here in this hole counterclockwise. It'll loosen. You can raise and lower the arm a bit. Clockwise direction tightens up again. That's how you set the tone arm height. If you've adjusted the tone arm height, or maybe just personal preference, you'd like the cueing lever to raise the arm a little higher off the record or not as high, that's easily adjustable. Right opposite the cueing lever on the other side of the cueing mechanism is a small Allen screw. We insert the smallest Allen wrench that comes with the turntable into that. About a half a turn counterclockwise will loosen up the cueing mechanism. It slides up and down. Tighten it just a bit. Test it out with a record. Once you've got it set right, snug down that screw. Your cueing height is all set. Remember, the platter on the MT10 lights up green. Now, you might have a preference to have it light up a little bit brighter or not quite as brightly. That's when you use the little yellow screwdriver that comes with the turntable. And there's a tiny little hole here, and it's marked lighting adjust. Insert the screwdriver, line it up with the screw, and you may have to turn this several turns. It's a very fine adjustment, and you can adjust the brightness of the platter illumination. Now, if you have perfect pitch, you might want to fine-tune the speed. That can be done using a strobe disc and a fluorescent light, or now there's apps that can go on your smartphone where you simply set your phone on the platter and it tells you very precisely what the speed is. I like to check that once a year. If it needs readjusting, you use the medium-size Allen wrench, remove this plate from the back of the turntable, and there are 3 holes for 33, 45, and 78 adjustment. You use the yellow screwdriver again, and remember these are fine adjustments, so you may have to turn the screwdriver more than 1 turn around to adjust it. That's it. You're ready to enjoy your MT10.